Hello, my name is Kemal Timur and today I am presenting my project for my maths hour about the history of algebra. Who invented algebra? Algebra is essential and is taught to every student in high school, but who is responsible for inventing algebra? It was discovered and developed at different times and in different locations, and these discoveries and new ideas eventually came together to give us what we collectively call algebra today. The meaning of word algebra. The word algebra is derived from the Arabic word al-jabr, and this comes from the treatise written in the 830 by the medieval Persian mathematician Muhammad ibn Musa al-Varansi, whose Arabic title Kitab al-Muharrazm can be translated as the compendious book of calculation by completion and balancing. The treatise provides for the systematic solution of linear and quadratic equations. According to one history, it is not certain just what the terms of algebra and muqabalah mean, but the usual interpretation is similar to that implied in the previous translation. And now I'm going to talk about types of algebra. The first one, Babylonian algebra. The origins of algebra can be traced to the ancient Babylonians, who lived and developed a positional number system that greatly aided them in solving their rhetorical algebraical questions. The Babylonians were not impressed in exact solutions but approximations, and so they would commonly use linear interpolation to approximate intermediate values. One of the most famous tablets in the Plimpton 32 tablet, created around 1600 before Christ, which gives a table of Pythagorean triples and represents some of the most advanced mathematics prior to Greek mathematics. Egyptian algebra. Ancient Egyptian algebra dealt mainly with linear equations, while the Babylonians found these equations too elementary and developed mathematics to a higher level than the Egyptians. The Rhind papyrus, also known as Ames papyrus, is an ancient Egyptian papyrus written by Ames, who transcribed it from an earlier work that he dated between 2000 and 18,000 before Christ. It is the most extensive ancient Egyptian mathematical document known to historians. The Rhind papyrus contains problems where linear equations of the form and of the complicated form are solved, where a and b and c are known, and x, which is referred to as aha or heap, is known. The solutions were possibly but not likely arrived at by using the method of false position or regula falsi. Greek algebra. It is sometimes alleged that the Greeks had no algebra, but this is inaccurate. By the time of Plato, Greek mathematics had undergone a drastic change. The Greek created a geometric algebra where terms, letters associated with them, and with this new form of algebra they were able to find solutions to equations by using a process that they invented known as the application of areas. The application of areas is only a part of geometric algebra and is thoroughly covered in Euclid's Elements. Islamic algebra. The first century of the Islamic Arab Empire saw almost no scientific or mathematical achievements, since the Arabs, with their newly conquered empire, has not yet gained any intellectual drive and research in other parts of the world that had faded. In the second half of the 8th century, Islam had a cultural awakening and the research in mathematics and sciences increased. The Muslim Abbasid Caliph Al-Ma'mun is said to have a dream where Aristotle appeared to him, and as a consequence, Al-Mun ordered that Arabic translation be made as of many Greek works of possible, including Ptolemy, Almagest, and Euclid Elements. Greek works would be given to the Muslims by the Byzantine Empire in exchange for treaties, as the two empires held an uneasy peace. Many of these Greek works were translated by Tabit in Qura, who translated books written by Euclid, Archimedes, Apollonius, Ptolemy, and Eudoxius. The algebra in Europe. Just as the death of Hypatia signals the close of the library of Alexandria as a mathematical center, so does the death of Boethius signal the end of mathematics in the Western Roman Empire. Although there was some work being done at Athens, it came to a close when in 529 the Byzantine Emperor Justinian closed the pagan philosophical schools. The year 529 is now taken to be the beginning of the medieval period. Scholars fled to the west towards the more hospitable east, particularly towards Persia, where they found have under King Chosroes and established what might be termed an Athenian academy in exile. The symbol x in algebra. By tradition, the first unknown variable in algebraic problems is nowadays represented by the symbol. If there is a second or third unknown, these are labeled and respectively algebraic x, that is now conventionally printed in italic type to distinguish it from the sign of multiplication. Mathematical historians generally agree that the use of x in algebra was introduced by René Descartes. Sand was first published in his treatise La Géométrie. In that work, he used letters from the beginning of the alphabet A, B, C for known quantities and letters from the end of the alphabet Z, Y, X for unknowns. It has been suggested that he later settled on X in place of Z for the first unknown because of its relatively greater abundance in the French and Latin typographical fonts of the time. Three alternative theories of the original algebraic symbol X were suggested in the 19th century. 1. A symbol used by German algebraists and thought to be derived from a cursive letter R mistaken for X. The second theory, the numeral 1 with oblique strike through, and the third theory was that an Arabic and Spanish source have managed to conquer an empire and they established this mathematical symbol. But the Swiss-American historian of the mathematics Florian Cajori examined this and found all the three lacking in concrete evidence. Cajori credited and Descartes as the originator and described his X, Y, and Z as free from tradition and the choice purely arbitrary. I thank you for your attention and I hope you liked my presentation.